People with a wide range of expertise and experience were brought together by the Salzburg Global Seminar in September 2008 to discuss the contributions of women in civil society to peacemaking and peacebuilding. The main focus for their deliberations was a resolution of the United Nations Security Council known as 1325. Adopted in October 2000, this was the first time the Council had addressed the situation of women, peace and security. Participants at the seminar reviewed whether or not the resolution had made an impact.
The concept in 1325 that women have to be part of the process has become well entrenched, but I think it needs to get up to another level now. And I think what we need to do is frame a stage 2, which would outline very specific actions with very specific responsibilities identified and resources and funding and structures put in place to make it happen.
I've seen time and again in every region of the world that women are able to collaborate and develop a common agenda, and that common agenda helps create a foundation for security.
When I was trained before deployment in New York, it was very much on the agenda about sexual exploitation and also the resolution 3025 about women's roles and rights in the peacekeeping mission in conflict areas. I found, to my surprise, that there was not much knowledge nor understanding of the resolution.
I think it's vital to give teeth to Resolution 1325. What we need now is to establish a working group of the Security Council that would have the power to name and shame governments and rebel movements that are not meeting their commitment to women.
But what I think is important is the use of 1325 as a mechanism to increase women's participation. The British government doesn't see 1325 as applicable to Northern Ireland. The agreement did call for the full and equal participation of women in political life, but there was no mechanism to ensure that that happened. There was no quota system. And so we have an underrepresentation of women in public and political life.
In other post-conflict countries, there are more women in power than those that have not experienced war and disruption. Having more women participate in decision-making is an important element of Resolution 1325.
The time of a peace process is often a time of upheaval, and therefore it offers opportunity for change. So you have countries like Rwanda and Burundi where you have very strong quotas which have been met of getting women into parliament, women into cabinet and women into senior positions.
South African women were very involved both in the conflict and in the negotiations and in the rebuilding of the society afterwards. The fruits of that exercise is now borne out in the post-apartheid society, where we have 33% of the parliamentarians are women, 40% of the cabinet ministers are women.
There is a tendency for post-conflict societies to, perhaps because the existing social order has been destroyed, to open the door for expanded women's participation. In the case of Afghanistan, right now 32% are women, and you contrast that with a country like the United States, where the figure's in the mid-teens.
We have so many women as experts on the different issues who really give the input to the negotiators at the table. And now, actually, the coordinator for all of the technical experts is a woman.
I think if I look at the Israeli side, women are not particularly influential. That in negotiations in the past, there have been Palestinian women where there were not Israeli women.
UN Resolution 1325 also called for the protection of women and girls from all forms of violence and sexual abuse. This was later strengthened by the adoption of a follow-up resolution specifically on sexual violence in times of conflict.
They're coming from an environment where massive rape used as a weapon of war occurs, and the very important first step is for women to go beyond the role of victim.
Right now, Zimbabwe is going through a political conflict, and as women of Zimbabwe, we have been organizing ourselves around wanting to restore peace and sanity in the country. But I've also had opportunity to work across the continent of Africa in post-conflict countries, campaigning specifically for the ending of impunity on sexual gender-based crimes. The visibility of sexual crimes being perceived and understood and being recognized as crimes of war, I would say, is very high. However, not much. Well, something is being done, but not adequately enough to focus on the women themselves and on the children.
All of the participants agreed that the meeting had given them concrete ideas and recommendations which could be applied in their own work or post-conflict situations.
I have heard so many compelling stories from people who have been in the field that have given examples about where women weren't recognized, about women who had been in the military, in the conflicts.
This seminar opened my eyes very much in bridge building to the civil society. People tend to live in their bubble. You have the UN bubble, you have the OSCE bubble, but they don't talk to each other.
One of the ideas that I do want to take back with me is this idea of creating perhaps a council of elders who are highly respected by the male leadership of the country, who can then advocate for us. I think that might make a difference.
A high-level advisory group, but also a moral conscience. Respected members of the society who are not compromised, who have not taken one side or the other during the conflict itself, and give them an official role to play, not to veto steps, not to overrule the political parties, but to say, you're going awry here.
One of the things that I've really found incredible is the idea of developing a talents bank, women's lists.
Well, when I go back now, the South African Foreign Affairs Department is having a huge conference on mainstreaming gender into peacekeeping. So certainly I will feed in a lot of the ideas coming from this global seminar.
The peacekeeping operations are at the heart of the UN activities. You need to be serious about that, and the role of women has been underestimated, must be enhanced.